It started with a missing crate of chemicals and a lie that nearly destroyed a girl's future. When Lana was accused of breaking into the school lab, everyone believed the witness, her own neighbor, Mr. Keller. A respected volunteer, a calm face in the crowd. Under oath, he claimed he saw Lana at the scene. But what if he was the one hiding something? What if the lie wasn't meant to protect the school, but to bury a secret far more dangerous? A surveillance tape, a broken oath, and a warning carved into wood. You dig, you disappear. This is not just a school mystery. This is what happens when the wrong person lies at the wrong place, under oath.
Before we dive deeper into the mystery, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Past Portal channel. Your support helps us keep the stories alive. May your days be filled with clarity, wonder, and peace, no matter where your path leads. And to those who've already liked, shared, subscribed, or left thoughtful comments, thank you. Truly, you're the reason this portal stays open.
The first day of school came with the familiar rustle of notebooks, the chime of lockers, and the whispers of summer secrets turned cold. Lana moved silently through the halls of St. Norwin High, a place where silence often screamed louder than the morning bell. She was known for her quiet presence, her long dark hair often hiding her eyes, and her ability to blend into the corners of every room. But this year felt different, not because she was a senior, but because every morning on her walk to school, her neighbor Mr. Keller would greet her with a look that stayed too long. Mr. Keller wasn't just any neighbor. He was a respected volunteer at the school, known for his composed nature, gray sweaters, and unreadable eyes. And yet, behind that calm exterior, Lana felt something coil, like a string pulled tight, waiting to snap. The tension escalated during an emergency school assembly. Principal Hammond took the stage, adjusting his glasses with a solemn expression. The science department had reported a theft. A crate of experimental chemicals had gone missing from the lab over the summer. It wasn't just theft, he said. It was a breach of school safety. The room went still. Students exchanged glances, and Lana felt her chest tighten, sensing something dark yet undefined creeping toward her. And then came the shock. Mr. Keller was invited to speak as a key witness. With unwavering calm, he stood before the school board and testified that he had seen Lana near the science wing the day before the incident. His voice was steady, his words sharp. I saw her by the lab door, alone, around dusk. Lana's heart stopped. That was a lie. She hadn't been anywhere near the science wing that week. She had spent her afternoons helping her mother paint the back shed. The accusation landed like a stone dropped in water, rippling through her friendships, her classes, and even the way teachers addressed her. Some avoided eye contact, others whispered when she passed. Her parents, initially confused, asked careful questions at dinner, not accusing but not defending either. Lana could barely sleep that night, her mind cycling through Mr. Keller's words. Why would he lie? What did he stand to gain? She remembered his eyes from that morning, calm but cold, the kind of calm that hides a storm beneath it. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and it had just begun.
The days that followed were slow unraveling of everything Lana thought she understood. Her best friend, Melissa, stopped saving her a seat during lunch. Group chats grew quiet when she joined, and whispers trailed behind her like a second shadow. Even the teachers shifted their gaze when calling attendance, as if unsure whether to mark her present or suspicious. Lana kept her head down, but inside, her mind screamed. She retraced her steps again and again, trying to find a crack in her memory, anything that might justify what Mr. Keller had said. But there was nothing, no misstep, no mistake. Only the unease that bloomed larger every time she passed her neighbor's house, where the curtains no longer moved and the porch light flickered like a tired eye refusing to close. One afternoon, as Lana opened her locker, a small folded paper slipped out from the top vent and floated to the floor. She picked it up with trembling fingers. The message was written in rough, hurried letters. "He knows you saw him." Her breath caught. The hallway around her blurred as noise dimmed into a low thrum. Who wrote this? What was she supposed to have seen? The words clawed at something buried in her memory. Her mind flashed back to a night during the last week of summer. She had been chasing her cat through the backyard, which backed onto the school grounds. She remembered seeing someone near the lab building, someone dragging something heavy toward a side door. At the time, she hadn't thought much of it, but now the image came back with haunting clarity. The figure hadn't been a student. It had been someone older. Broad shoulders, a dark gray sweater. That night, Lana stood by her window, staring across the street at Mr. Keller's house. The porch was dark, curtains still drawn, but something flickered inside. A television, perhaps, or a fire. She felt it again, that tightness in her chest, as if her lungs refused to trust the air. Why would a neighbor, a man with no reason to harm her, make up a lie under oath? Unless he had a reason to cover something up. She turned away from the window, the note still in her hand, and opened her desk drawer. Inside were a few photos from last summer, one of which showed her cat in the backyard. In the background, blurred and half hidden by shadows, stood a man near the fence line. Not just any man. It was him, Mr. Keller, and he was watching.
Determined to uncover the truth, Lana turned to the only person she still trusted, Ezra, a quiet student who spent most of his time in the tech lab, none more for hacking firewalls than passing gym. She showed him the note and the blurry photo. He didn't ask questions, he only nodded and said, "We need to check the server backups." The school's main surveillance system had its footage wiped every month, but Ezra explained that maintenance logs were automatically mirrored to a secure cloud archive for insurance purposes. Getting access wouldn't be easy, but Lana's situation was far beyond the boundaries of easy. So the plan was set. During the next fire drill, they'd slip into the admin server room undetected. The fire alarm screamed through the building 2 days later. Students poured into the courtyard in lazy lines while teachers took attendance. Lana and Ezra moved fast, sliding behind the library supply room and into the rear staircase. The server room was locked, but Ezra's copied faculty badge worked like magic. Inside, blinking blue lights painted the walls like stars. They found the backup logs, fragmented but intact. Ezra transferred everything to a drive while Lana kept watch, heart pounding with every second. That night, in Ezra's garage, they combed through the footage. Most files were empty screens or janitorial runs. But then, at 10:42 p.m., 3 nights before school started, a figure appeared in the lab hallway. Not a student, not a janitor, it was Mr. Keller, holding a large box with a hazard label. Lana stared at the screen, her blood running cold. This was the proof that Mr. Keller had been in the science wing after hours on the night the theft likely occurred. But there was more. The footage showed him glancing over his shoulder and entering the lab with his own key. No break-in, no sign of force, just confidence, like he belonged there. Lana's hands shook as she paused the video, zooming in on the date stamp. There was no way to misread it. This was days before school even started. She sat back, breathing hard. Mr. Keller had lied under oath to accuse her, but not because he made a mistake. He had something to hide, and he was willing to destroy her to keep it buried.
The next morning, Lana stood at her porch, clutching the flash drive like it was the last thread holding her life together. She didn't know what she expected, confrontation or clarity, but her feet moved toward Mr. Keller's front door on their own. The knock echoed through the quiet street. A moment passed before the door creaked open, revealing the same gray sweater and neutral expression that had haunted her dreams. "Lana," he said, almost kindly, "did you need something?" She wanted to scream, to throw the drive in his face, to ask him why he chose her as a scapegoat. But instead, she looked into his eyes and asked calmly, "Why did you lie?" His smile didn't falter, but the warmth in his eyes flickered. "I didn't," he said smoothly. "Maybe you just forgot where you were." That night, Lana's backyard lights shorted out. She ran outside, flashlight in hand, to find her fence scratched with deep, jagged letters. "You dig, you disappear." Her hands went numb. She called Ezra, who rushed over despite the late hour. Together, they examined the damage. No footprints, no tools left behind. Just the message carved with deliberate rage. Ezra brought his laptop and opened a file he hadn't shown her yet. It was a sealed disciplinary record he found under a corrupted school server directory. Mr. Keller had been transferred from another district after a psychological evaluation flagged him as a risk to community safety due to unmonitored experiments conducted on school property. Lana's throat dried. This wasn't just a man trying to protect his reputation. This was someone who had done this before. Her mind reeled as the puzzle pieces clicked together. She hadn't just been falsely accused. She had witnessed something that night, something Keller couldn't allow to surface. She hadn't realized it then, but her flashlight had briefly illuminated his face as he moved crates into the lab's back entrance. At the time, she was chasing her cat and barely looked up, but Keller had seen her, and in his mind, that made her a threat. Lana sank into her chair, the truth twisting through her like cold wire. Mr. Keller had lied under oath, not because of confusion, not to protect the school, but because he was cornered. He was desperate, and she had unknowingly seen the one thing that could unravel everything he was trying to hide.
Lana knew there was no turning back. The next day, she and Ezra walked into Principal Hammond's office with the flash drive, printed transcripts, and a folder containing the sealed report from Keller's past. The principal was hesitant at first, frowning at the breach of security. But when Lana played the footage, the image of Mr. Keller entering the lab at night, carrying the crate marked with biohazard symbols, the room fell silent. Hammond's fingers tightened around the edge of his desk. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice low. Lana didn't answer. She didn't need to. The truth was right there, playing on a loop. He called an emergency meeting with the school board. For the first time in weeks, Lana felt the weight on her chest begin to shift. Mr. Keller was summoned into the meeting room, still wearing his usual calm-like armor. He denied everything, claimed the footage was fabricated, claimed the reports were false. But the board had already made their calls. The district superintendent confirmed Keller's disciplinary history. The timestamps on the footage were verified. Then came the final blow. Ezra had traced Keller's home IP to several anonymous forum posts discussing illegal compound mixing techniques, many of which matched the stolen chemical inventory. When confronted with the mountain of evidence, Keller didn't argue. He simply sat down, placed his hands on the table, and whispered, "I was trying to help. I just didn't want her to get in the way." His voice cracked on that last word, not in remorse, in frustration. Security escorted him from the building. The board made a formal apology to Lana, reinstating her scholarship and promising to clear her name in all school records. But no amount of cleared files could erase what had happened. The hallway stairs softened, but the memory lingered. Keller wasn't arrested, not immediately. The investigation had only begun, but the lie had been exposed. Lana returned home that evening and stood by her window, staring across the street. Keller's house was empty now. No lights, no flickers behind the curtains, just stillness. And for the first time since the school year began, Lana breathed without fear. Yet something inside her knew. The real danger had never been the lie. It had always been the silence that let it grow.
Weeks passed, and the town slowly returned to its quiet rhythm.
Halloween decorations appeared on porches, leaves blanketed the sidewalks, and morning bells rang like nothing had ever happened. But for Lana, the world felt changed. The way people spoke to her was different. Careful, cautious, as if touching something once thought fragile. She appreciated the apologies, the hesitant smiles, but she didn't trust them. Not fully. In the evenings, she often walked past Mr. Keller's now vacant house. The windows remained shuttered. The porch sagged under the weight of fallen branches. Yet every so often, she swore she saw a flicker of movement inside. Not a person, but the echo of everything he'd left behind. The lie, the fear, the manipulation. It all lived there still, like dust that wouldn't settle. Ezra returned to his world of coding and caffeine, but they stayed close. He never brought up the footage again, nor the file he had never deleted from his hard drive. They both understood that some truths didn't disappear just because they had been exposed. Lana tried to immerse herself in classes, in her college applications, in simple things like books and music. But part of her remained on guard. Once you've been watched, accused, betrayed, it's hard to walk down a hallway without checking every reflection. The message on her fence had long since been scrubbed clean, but its weight still lingered in the air around her home. It was a reminder. Not all threats wear masks or carry knives. Some wear cardigans and offer to help with science fairs. One rainy night, Lana woke to the sound of footsteps outside her window. She rose slowly, heart pounding, and pulled back the curtain. No one was there, just wind and water on glass. She knew it could have been anything, a stray cat, a branch, her imagination, but she also knew what it felt like when silence watched you. The next morning, she painted her fence a new color, sky blue, as if to say, this space is mine now. The past doesn't vanish, but it no longer has the right to whisper. Mr. Keller's lie may have been broken, but it had taught her something deeper. The truth doesn't always save you. Sometimes it just makes you strong enough to survive.
In many towns across Europe, where morning coffees are taken seriously and neighborhood fences are painted with care, trust is often built on quiet routines and familiar greetings. You nod at the man across the street, you smile at the woman watering her plants, and you assume everyone is exactly who they say they are. But sometimes, even in the most peaceful neighborhoods, the truth hides behind drawn curtains and polite smiles. It reminds us that danger does not always knock loudly. Sometimes it walks beside us, carries our groceries, and waves goodbye with a lie on its lips. What happened to Lana could happen anywhere. A simple accusation, a trusted figure, a system slow to question what looks respectable. In our everyday lives, especially in quiet suburbs and structured communities, it is easy to dismiss the unusual, to ignore the small warnings. But silence is not always safety, and kindness without honesty is just another disguise. Whether you live near the forests of Germany, the coasts of Spain, or the narrow lanes of the Netherlands, the lesson remains the same. Never underestimate the power of truth, and never surrender your voice to someone else's version of it. Thank you for watching this story on Past Portal Channel. If it moved you, surprised you, or made you think twice about what hides behind a familiar smile, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more untold stories into the light.